I'm speaking to Dr. A.B.C Orjiako, who's the chairman of Seplat Petroleum. Thanks for stopping by. Seplat Petroleum, an indigenous Nigerian company, private as of yet. Do you want to just maybe give those who aren't maybe familiar with your company a little bit of an overview when you started and what sort of assets you have?
Thank you very much, Drake. My name is A.B.C Orjiako. I'm the chairman of Seplat Petroleum Development Company Limited, a Nigerian independent oil and gas company. This company was formed in 2009, started operations in 2010. The company pioneered the acquisition from the multinational oil companies, Shell, Total, and Eni, of their divesting assets in the Niger Delta onshore. In 2010, we took over operations that was operated by Shell, and within a period of 3 years, we've managed to grow our production from 14,000 barrels a day of oil and condensate to current 60,000 barrels a day within 3 years. This we've been able to do because we're an indigenous company, we're the operators of the assets, and we've managed to leverage on our ability to engage the communities where we operate. So going forward, we're looking to continue to grow our production, and we're looking to have 100,000 barrels a day by 2016 of oil and condensate, and looking to grow our operated production of gas from the current 130 million scf a day to 300,000 million scf a day.
So the story about Nigeria in the last 5 years is the divestiture, as you say, from the likes of Chevron, Shell, Total. What is the opportunity that gives the independent oil company? What is it that you can do better, maybe than the majors could, or that you see that they don't see?
Basically, we see the huge opportunity from the fact that the multinational oil companies are divesting mainly their onshore and shallow water assets. By the way, the important thing to stress here is that they're not leaving Nigeria. They are basically rationalizing their assets. And we find this as a huge opportunity. And having pioneered this, what we're seeing going forward is that there will be more and more assets that will be available for an indigenous independent company to acquire. What do we do differently? Our type of engagement with the communities is key. Being a smaller company, having a smaller footprint means that we have a stronger focus in the areas where we operate. For example, in our existing asset, we took it over from Shell operatorship and grew presence in terms of employees from 37 we acquired from Shell to over 300 of core people working in these assets. Therefore, if you imagine this volume of people and growth, focusing in a smaller size area compared to the large footprint of Shell, we definitely are able to do things differently. One of the things we like to stress is our community engagement. We've managed to develop what we call the Seplat model of community engagement, which is at the foundation of doing oil and gas business in the Niger Delta. And what we've done is to proactively get all of the host communities where we operate to make them real, true partners in what we do. We build capacity within them, we empower them, grow economic activities in those areas, and therefore win their confidence. And this has basically shown a lot of dividend for us as a company. Therefore, if you look at the fundamentals within the company, we measured the incidences that occurred in terms of disruption of our operation that has been occasioned by community interruption. And this has continued to decrease. 2011, we recorded 6 incidences. 2012, we recorded 4 incidences. By half year 2013, we recorded 0 incident. And this is mainly a strong statement of confidence from our communities. That is basically one of the things we've done differently.
Traditionally, Nigeria is an oil producer. It's an oily country. Most of the gas that they have not been able to be used in the past because they've had to flare it. They didn't have the infrastructure to harness, to monetize it. But they actually have one of the highest gas reserves, if not the highest gas reserves in all of Africa. And you're focused on gas, so I assume that this picture is changing then. Nigeria's starting to be able to use a lot of its gas reserves.
Yeah, that's a good question, Drake. Basically, our growth strategy, our three planks. One is the organic growth of our existing asset. Two is gas commercialization, and three is accretive growth in terms of asset acquisition. But talking about gas, I think the story is changing with respect to Nigerian gas flaring. And this actually is driven by the fact that in the last 2 years, the Nigerian administration has come up with a gas reform program, which they call the Gas Revolution Program. That is gas to power, gas to industry, and gas to agriculture. And at the back of that, government has very actively started the privatization processes of the power generation and distribution system in Nigeria. With this has come a very huge demand for gas in the domestic market. As a company, when we took over the assets from Shell, gas had practically no value. But we have now since seen that the gas that was about 20 to 30 cents per million scoff at the time we took over in 2010, we're today signing contracts, 20 years contracts at $3 per million scoff. That has therefore given us the impetus to grow a very solid gas commercialization. In terms of demand, the demand is increasing. We are even unable to meet the demands for gas. Therefore, we can see a huge disincentive to flare gas, because basically we are converting this to cash. So any gas you flare in Nigeria today is like really burning petrodollar. And there's really a big opportunity to develop the gas business.
I think there's something like 24 independent oil and gas companies that have come into Nigeria or been set up in the last couple of years to take advantage of the divestitures by the majors. Where does that funding come from? Where does your funding come from? And how do you explain your story to investors? Do they understand it well enough to get excited about the things that you're excited about? That's
a good question. In terms of funding, starting for ourselves as a company, we have a mixture of direct foreign investment. One of our shareholders is an independent from Paris. They invested and took 45% equity in the company, and that brought in some equity cash in the business. At the back of that, of course, the company leveraged and took facilities from mainly Nigerian companies, as well as some Nigerian banks, as well as international banks. But going forward in terms of our funding, we've managed from our growth in terms of our production, we've built a very solid and robust cash flow during this period. So much so that in our existing assets, we do not need any leveraging to be able to operate. We're generating enough cash flows to be able to run our CapEx and OpEx. So any need for fund in the company in terms of leveraging or even further equity is really directed towards new acquisitions in the company. So as a company, we're very happy with what we've generated in terms of cash flows. Now, if you look at our growth in production from 14,000 barrels a day to 60,000 barrels a day, that is throwing up quite a lot of cash. In addition to that, of course, the impetus for the gas business has therefore generated quite a lot of cash flow from gas itself. Our objective is to make gas at least 30% of our revenue going forward from 2013. So from company perspective, we're very happy with what we're seeing, but going forward, we believe that we can attract more equity as well as leveraging to have more acquisitions in the Niger Delta.
And speaking of attracting equity, it's you read about rumors of some independent oil companies wanting to list eventually, and I've read rumors about your company wanting to do that, perhaps in London, perhaps in Nigeria. I don't know if you can comment on that at all, or whether you could perhaps just give the value proposition for any potential equity investor in your company.
Yes, in Seplat, we're aware of those rumors, but frankly, we don't operate with rumors. We are a private company, and we've remained focused in growing this company as a private company. We have quite a lot of things we're doing, growing our assets organically, acquiring new assets, and growing our gas business, and that is our main focus going forward.
I suppose there are people in the West, not based in Nigeria, who would characterize the oil and gas industry in Nigeria as suffering from a lot of troubles of inefficiencies or policy inertia. How do you perceive that? Do you think things are getting better, or are they getting worse? Is it a challenging environment, or is it easier perhaps for an indigenous company to navigate those difficulties?
Well, definitely there are challenges, especially when you're looking at the Niger Delta. But the good news is that a lot of that is changing. Political risks are decreasing. In the Niger Delta, the restiveness is definitely decreasing. The government has put in place a number of things that have been responsible for this. I'm sure you may be familiar with the amnesty initiative of the administration. That has helped tremendously. And having said that, of course, the involvement of indigenous independents has also meant that the engagement of communities has improved. And what will make you know that things are getting better is a real major index of measurement is the level of interest anytime a multinational company wants to divest any assets. The number of companies that show interest, and this is a combination of indigenous and international companies. We've seen this happening. We pioneered, of course, the divestment exercise and therefore have a first mover advantage. But even subsequent transactions did attract quite a number of companies. And what we've also seen is an increasing price being paid in terms of 2P multiples of the price. So that means that even though there are challenges in the Niger Delta, this is very effectively being overcome, and we're seeing more and more interest being generated in the Niger Delta.
Well, thank you for stopping by. We wish you all the best the next year.
Thank you, Drake. Thank you.